I say, yep, go.
My name's John Scheers. I represent the Generation Works Services Department of Ergon in Cairns, and we essentially look after just over 30 power stations throughout the Torres Straits, all of Cape York, right down as far as Birdsville in Western Queensland. The latest news, hot off the press, is that the current government intend to possibly outsource or sell off our generation assets, which will have huge implications in these remote communities, not to mention the guys that I represent in Cairns itself.
That's fine. Yeah, so what sort of impact will it have? We know that they're not on the grid.
Well, these power stations aren't on the grid. A lot of people aren't aware of that. All the power stations that we take care of and maintain are actually diesel-fired power stations. They're standalone units. We have them on all the islands and all the remote communities. On each of these islands, at each of these power stations, we have locally employed power station attendants that do a magnificent job at keeping these power stations running and alerting us if something goes wrong, so we can send our Cairns crew in to rectify the problem. Out west, places like Camberwell and Boulia, we have full-time attendants out there that double up as our local Ergon line crew, so that if you do get an incident there, such as a power line down, they can respond to that immediately. Now, if the government gets its way and they close these local depots or sell them off, the response times for any electrical outages are going to be ridiculously long, maybe even up to 2 to 3 days, depending on how they structure their response.
How many jobs are we looking at directly being affected by this?
Okay, directly affected by this would be up to 160 jobs. That's full and part-time jobs. Obviously the Cairns crew, the main crew there that's based on the ground in Hartley Street, Cairns, there's 35 full-time tradesmen. We employ a lot of apprentices, Indigenous apprentices from the Torres Straits. We've got a full-time crew at Thursday Island, and a lot of those guys up at Thursday Island have been there since they were young fellas. They've been there for over 25 years, and as you're aware, there's not too many other secure, good jobs in those areas. So this is going to be a devastating outcome if these local guys lose their jobs because of this outsourcing and privatisation.
And you touched on it in the conference about the social impact on the communities. We know that the government have also gone down the line of removing some of the cross subsidies, or are talking about removing the cross subsidies. What sort of social impact do you think this will have, not only on those Indigenous communities but also on the wider area?
Well, we'll have to look at, in reality, how much electricity costs to produce in these areas. Now, the latest figures I've been told is that the government has been subsidising each consumer in these remote communities upwards of about $12,000 to $16,000 per annum of electricity tariffs, so that they pay the same amount as what we do in southeast Queensland, etc. Well, that's all apparently going to be part of history now. So it's anyone's guess what electricity prices will cost, and it's all dependent on who's producing the electricity and what they want to charge. Really, we don't know. Social impacts will be that people won't be able to pay their electricity bills, so they will have to move somewhere that they will be able to pay their electricity bills, which means that there'll be an influx into the major centres. Let's take, for example, Cairns. A lot of the people that won't be able to pay their electricity bills in Cape York Peninsula, Torres Straits, etc., will have nowhere else to go but Cairns, Mossman, those sort of areas where they can pay their electricity bills. So it does have social implications that most people won't even realise just yet.
And so, what sort of things are you wanting people to do on the ground to help out, to get this message out there that these generation assets, which are often, I think you described it earlier, quite isolated and out of mind, what do you want people to do across the ETU and the Not For Sale campaign to help you get the message out there?
Well, I think our campaign relies upon people understanding what we do, the service we provide. I think we need to get the information out there. As I've already spoken about today, even people within Ergon Energy don't even know that our department exists, what we do, where we do it, and we do a lot of our work in some of the most extreme places of Australia, you know, and the guys that do it, they spend a lot of time away from their families and their children. A lot of them are young guys, and that's very tough on them. But I think what we need to do is educate the public through word of mouth and through the campaign itself that this is a situation that's been put on us. It's very serious. We need to act now. I think the ramifications of not acting now could be devastating. I think we just need to get the word out in the community.
Fantastic. One of the other things you pointed out in the conference was that, and something that probably people didn't know, was you were some of the first responders when the cyclones came through.
Oh, certainly.
And I think that's something that people need to be aware of as we come into storm season. So give us an idea of how that was during cyclone season.
Well, a lot of people in the shock of the cyclone, the aftermath of the cyclone, really didn't have much time to think about what was going on around them. Pretty devastating times for everybody. But as time went on, from day one, people would have noticed that there was an influx of portable generation. Okay, and for example, I was first on the ground at Cardwell the day after the cyclone went down. Pretty devastating stuff. Every pole, every wire was on the ground. The main street was covered in about 2 metres of sand. All the shops were gone. There essentially wasn't any power lines left on the main street or through our Cardwell at all. So what we had to do was get in there and start providing generation capabilities, because it was going to be weeks before the main generation or main power transmission lines were repaired into Cardwell. And so that's exactly what we did. We assessed the situation, we went in there, and we started from day one getting power restored to homes. We started with the underground sections that weren't affected by the flooding and that sort of thing. Little by little, we worked with the local line crew from Tully, and that's another depot that could be in the firing line as well. We responded within hours. As soon as it was safe to get in there, we were there. And people just don't realise that that's the service we provide. We just turn up every cyclone, but that's what's in jeopardy now as well. You know, as well as our mainstream work, which provides power to these remote communities in Western Queensland, regional Queensland, the emergency response is one of our biggest things as well. And honestly, I don't know how that's going to be done if the government take that away.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.